Welcome to Unlearn the Crap TV with your host, Kathy Baldwin. Unlearn the Crap TV is more than just a show. It's a movement towards breaking free from the disempowering structures designed to benefit the few at the expense of the many. It's about education, healing, and unlearning the detrimental beliefs that have been ingrained in society for generations. So now, please welcome the host of Unlearn the Crap TV, Kathy Baldwin.
Welcome back to Unlearn the Crap TV. My name is Kathy Baldwin and I am your host. For those of you who are regular watchers, you've probably noticed that we've been on a 3-week hiatus. I like to lead with vulnerability. I like to live in transparency. So let me explain why we had an unexpected hiatus. Because I am an entrepreneur and I am in business for myself, I don't have to have the regular 9 to 5 hours. And so as someone who has struggled with mental health, depression and anxiety and fibromyalgia and all of those things, when I was facing some stresses in my personal life and my body was flaring up, and what was happening is I was starting to go into my old patterns. I was starting to do the things I used to do that got me really sick, which was try to play small, just get through the day, soldier on, put on my big girl panties and show up. Well, I have learned from experience that when I lose my voice and I lose my energy and I lose my passion and my body hurts, that it's time for self-care. And so I'm so blessed and so lucky that I have the opportunity to say, I need time to take care of myself. I need time to regroup. I need to find my center again. I need to get back to who I authentically am so I can show up as my best self. And so I gave myself permission. I gave myself permission to not show up perfectly and every time. Originally, I had committed that I was going to do a show live every single week. And I put that expectation on myself, and I gave myself no room for leeway. And so when I stood back and realized that that is part of my patterns, that is part of the dysfunction that took me down, that's part of the crap I needed to unlearn. And so I did. And you'll notice that on this show, we probably aren't going to do everything perfectly. And that's okay. We're in a season at the end of the year. We're ending down 2024. And there is so much going on in our world. There's so much going on energetically, astrologically, politically, economically. I mean, so much change is coming. And if we don't use self-awareness to know what we need and to give ourselves the grace to take care of what we actually need, what good are we bringing into the world? We're coming at the end of 2024, and at the end of the year comes the holiday season. And with the holiday season, we have the sadness of things that we've lost and people we've lost and the transitions we're going through. Recently, if you're following my Facebook page, you will have seen that I posted my father's 80th birthday was supposed to have been December 1st, but I lost him and my mother 16 years ago. November 28th would have been their 60th wedding anniversary. And so they were young children when they had me and got married. And I had this belief that that meant that I was going to grow old with my parents. And I used to have this vision that we were going to be two little old ladies and we were going to tear up the world. And I had all these visions of what this stage of my life was supposed to be. But with the loss of them, that dream is gone as well. And with the loss of them has changed my traditions. It has changed the way the holidays show up. It's changed family dynamics. It's changed so much. And so all of these issues were bubbling up in me. And I bet I'm not the only one. So I'm really, really excited. The universe works in an amazing way because when I decided to take a 3-week hiatus and knew today would be the first show back, and I looked at my scheduled guest, and I saw that I had Amber Thompson-Snell as my guest, who is an advocate and a passionate believer in mental health and making sure that we have all the resources we need. I realized that divine timing and universal laws were at force. And so I'm welcoming Amber to join me on the show where we are going to get real and we are going to have a conversation to help each and every one of us know how to navigate mental health and the holidays and the stresses and the what ifs and the should haves. Amber, would you like to join me? Hello, my beautiful friend.
Hello, how are you?
I am so rejuvenated and reinvigorated now that I've taken this little hiatus into self-care.
Yeah,
How are you?
it's outrageously important. And gosh, I don't even know where to start. There's so much to talk about.
I know.
Um, but here, the first thing I want to do is congratulate you, Kathy, because identifying the fact that, holy crap, I can't do it. I can't do it. I just need a break, you know? I'm going to get real vulnerable here in a second and let you know that I actually experienced something very recently. In fact, it was on Sunday. I was picking up my daughter from her dad, and my son is 12 years old, and he's at this area in his life where he does not know how to express his feelings or his emotions. And so a lot of times it'll come out as anger, right?
Mm.
I was talking to his dad and he was like, why is he acting like that? And I said, he probably just doesn't know how to handle how he's feeling. Right.
Yeah.
And luckily, you have been able to identify that and put into play what needs to happen for you so you can get yourself back on track. Right.
Yeah, but to be really honest with you, Amber, I didn't recognize it at first. And I
Mm,
had to have people in my world call it out to me and say, what's going on? Like, why aren't you showing up as yourself? Where are you stuck in your patterns? And at first, all those defensive feelings come up where you think, what do you mean? I'm showing up, I'm doing my best, is this not good? Like all of that crazy talk going on in my head. And I had to actually look and say, okay, really, what's going on? And that's when I realized, if I'm not showing up as my best, what good am I bringing to the world if I just keep soldiering on and just keep pushing through?
yeah. And that's the other side of it, right? And that's where the I think that we all strive to get that awareness in us so then we can identify it, right? Um, I know because I was a single mom for many, many years, right? And what I can identify with is back in my single mom era where I was hustling and I was bustling and I was building a business and raising my kids and going to sports and doing the things and da da da. You get so caught up in the rat race, right? And you're busy and you're busy and you're busy and you're busy and you're busy. And I look back at that time and I look at how I am now. And I remember I didn't remember so many different things that were even happening in my day-to-day life because my mind was absolutely overloaded with everything going on, to where now my life is a lot different, right? And so I can have different, I identify, and I'm like, I did not even realize back then, because I was so overwhelmed, all the things I can take in now. It's like your brain actually opens up extra space whenever you're not in that rat race, right?
Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought up that point, because that is one of the things that I'm so passionate about with Unlearn the Crap, is when we understand that when we're under that stress and when our emotions are taking control of us because they're trying to get our attention. Emotions are our frequency and our language of our communication, telling us what's going on. It's our sensor system. And so if we're just allowing these emotions to run without a conversation, kind of letting what you were talking about in your family life, where things are just running and you don't know how to stop it and you don't know how to deal with it because the emotions are running it, instead, because they're so wanting you to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
It's your soul calling, right?
Yeah. Something that you said really stuck with me is when you said, soldier on.
Mm.
Think about how many people in our society, children, mom, dad, every person, right, has their own version of soldiering on. But whenever what if we had like this magic ding off in our head that when we're actually in that state of soldiering on, what if we could identify that and process how we were feeling and think about what we're doing so that we are not living in that state, right?
Yeah. So, what does that look like for you personally? Because you know the rat race just like I do about single parenting and starting your business and, having all these demands of pulling you in different directions. What is your signal that tells you, ding, ding, Amber, soul calling, we need to talk?
Well, I am a little bit different. I'm very blessed to have very cognizant children, or my daughter or my son, my younger two kids, especially when they were younger. I actually do this like hard sigh, apparently, that I'm doing completely subconsciously. And my son would ask me, Mom, are you stressed? And he was just a tiny boy, Apparently, your whole body reacts. You get different mannerisms. So whether it's my daughter identifying, hey mom, are you stressed or are you okay, then I like, oh yeah, I am stressed, and here's why. It's like when she identifies it and I'm able to speak about it, then I can go back and say, okay, well, why am I stressed about this, or how can I create a solution for that? But really, a big part of how I offset that stress or offset all of that is by meditation. Meditation
Wow.
and the guided meditations. All of them you can find on YouTube for nothing, completely free.
Wow. Well, we've got so much to unpack and so much to talk about, and we're going to do it as soon as we come back from this commercial.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
So while we were on commercial break, I remembered something that used to happen in my home while I was growing up. I guess I'm being nostalgic, thinking about my parents a lot. But my mother was a perfectionist, and everything had to be perfect, but she was also an amazing hostess. And so she would go crazy before any event, whether it was the holidays or a dinner party or whatever. She would literally go stress right out. And I remember she would freak out and say, "Oh my God, there's so much to do." And I'd say, "What? What? Oh, we got to change the toilet paper in the guest bathroom." Okay, that'll be 30 seconds. And she would be this basket case and then open the door. "Hello, welcome." And meanwhile, everyone behind her is like frazzled because of the amount of stress that was going on. And I have the feeling that there is an awful lot of people who are going to be experiencing that in this holiday season. But Amber, do you mind if I tell on you on what just happened before this show came on the air? I can
Yes.
tell on you?
Yes,
Okay.
tell on me.
So this show is live. We film live. And here we were 1 minute before our show was going to go live. And Amber, who is in the mental health arena, she does help people with all sorts of medical and very serious issues. And she is on the phone with a client who needs her at the exact moment she's expected to show up live here. And I was saying in the commercial break, man, you transitioned fast. Like you went from work to girlfriend. Was it as easy of a transition for you as it looked like?
Absolutely not. I was freaking out. Oh my gosh. But that's what you do, right? You pivot. You make things happen. But I believe how your internal like soul, right? Like what you're talking about with your soul. If I was not in a better place in my soul and had doing my meditation practices and knowing that it's going to be okay, you just got to breathe through this little section right here, I probably would have showed up looking a little bit different. But thank you, Lord, to meditation.
Well, I'm so glad that you did transition and we're still there for your client. So, one of the things that I really like to talk about and unpack with people is Unlearn the Crap is about the condition responses and automatic programming that takes us out and puts us into dysfunction and disempowerment, and how unlearning the crap is about self awareness and self education and healing and letting all of that go. So it's education and awareness. And when we unlearn the disempowering crap, we get to level up, because I believe that leveling up is our soul's calling to us where we belong. Now, I can't wait to tell everybody about how you've leveled up in your life. But before we get there, can you tell us what crap you needed to unlearn to get here?
Yikes. Um, Grace. I never knew how to give myself grace. I felt like I had to be perfect. I had to show up perfect, just like what you were talking about at the very beginning of the show, that you didn't give yourself any leeway, right? And I still think to a certain degree that I don't give myself that leeway. I feel like if I cannot do it exactly how it needs to be done right now, I can't do it at all. And so that's what I've really been focusing on lately, is how to unlearn that crap, right? How to unlearn that you can still show up and it doesn't have to be perfect. And so perfectionism is definitely a killer, you know?
Yeah. Is that okay? So before I ask this question, I'm going to explain my belief. My belief is that we all have a zone of genius. We all have a very special, unique gift that we bring to the world. And on the other side of that zone of genius, because we live in a universal world, or sorry, in a world with universal laws, and the law of polarity states that there is an exact opposite for everything. The opposite of our zone of genius is usually our biggest struggle, our biggest challenge. And that when we hone those challenges and when we face those issues, that will either wear us down or polish us into diamonds. So, on the other side of perfectionism, what is your zone of genius?
Wow. That's a really good question. I think, again, I'm going to go back to the grace side, where knowing that being myself authentically and accepting myself for who I am is now becoming my other side of how I should show up. I don't think that came across clear, but like you were saying, the opposite of genius is where you need to focus on everything. But as I become more authentically myself, right? I think that comes with age and experience and, genuine self-confidence. Then you can start identifying where the lack is, or where the I'm really not good at this and I can either work on it or toss it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, for me, one of my patterns is I overgive. And it comes back to part of my childhood that we had to show up for company and make sure that, as the host, that we were always making sure that our guests were the star and everything was perfect for them, regardless of the chaos that was going on in the background. And so while I love what I'm doing with my TV show here and with my coaching programs and all the other ways that I give and I serve. The other side of that for me is that self sacrifice, that putting myself not as important to make sure that my guests are priority. And so it shows up out of balance. And so for me, that moment of self awareness let me go back and rest and rejuvenate and journal and pray and meditate and, do things that were really good for me. But it came with so many challenges that I had to face in order to get through that so I could come back to my zone of genius. Does my question make a little more sense
Yes.
now?
Yes. It's really spot on with the overgiving, right? I think the givers of the world, they overgive for a particular reason. Mine comes from childhood trauma. I felt like
Mm.
I had to sacrifice every thought, feeling, and desire I ever had to make other people happy for them to accept me. I didn't feel accepted, right? And so that's where my overgiving comes from.
Oh, so you have the same thing? Look at this synchronicity happening. So if overgiving shows up as when you are out of alignment, but yet when you're in your zone of genius, you are giving. Because that's what you do, right? You give and support and nurture and care for so many people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. You're exactly right. You nailed it.
I'm kind of good at this sometimes.
Really good at this. Yeah, you're exactly right. You nailed it. And then you like what I love about this is you can still be a giver with boundaries. And I didn't know that. Now that I've learned how to set a few boundaries and know that there can be a win-win versus they win, I lose, that's a huge awakening. You're like, wow,
Yeah.
this is a beautiful world that I don't have to lose every time I give and someone else gets to gain. And that's
Yeah.
really exciting.
Yeah, I'm really happy you talked about that because as a person growing up, I did not know what a boundary was other than a fence around your property. I did not know that that existed for me. Could you quickly explain before we have to go to our next commercial what exactly is a boundary and how do you create one?
So a boundary is it's a mutual agreement between two people where you don't have to give a beyond what you're comfortable with. If you walk away, say for instance, you meet up with a friend and you're like, "I'll buy lunch." Right? That's a good one. And you walk away thinking, "Man, she never buys lunch. She never offers to buy lunch. I don't know why I did it, but I just feel like cuz I'm a giver, I want to buy lunch every time." Right? That's a good example. But
Yeah.
creating that boundary would be, hey, I'd love to meet you for lunch. You got you and I got me. Okay. And you just kind of put it out there and know that it's on the table. And if they want to meet for lunch, great. If they don't want to meet for lunch, great. But you didn't have to sacrifice yourself to make someone else happy to accomplish the goal, right?
Oh, I love the way you explain that as a mutual agreement.
Mhm.
Because so many times we've been taught that it's subtle, it is underlying, and there are expectations of shoulds that if I pick up lunch this time, that you are expected to do it next time,
Mhm.
regardless of what position you might be in next time, or how you're feeling, or even if you remembered that that was an expectation that was projected onto you on how you were expected to behave based on my decision to pick up lunch this time.
Exactly. Exactly. So whenever you put it out in the open and you're just like comfortable with your new boundary, you don't ever have to walk away feeling that yucky feeling, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I love the way you explain that. So many times we live with the shoulds and we live with the expectations that we're expected to behave in a way that based on other people's decisions and other people's um, choices and other people's whatever, their values, their situation, their thoughts, their wherever they are in their life, and that we're expected to behave in a certain way. And if it doesn't align, we don't have to keep it. It's not ours to keep. And we're going to come right back to this conversation on how we can navigate all of these stresses and these mental health issues so that we can sail through the holidays and start 2025 so strong when we come back from this commercial. Don't forget to subscribe and like.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like, it was almost instant. Like, I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. You know, it feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
So, we were talking about expectations and boundaries. And we were also talking about we are in the season of holidays, where in America there was Thanksgiving that just happened, and a lot of family dynamics come out. We have Christmas, New Year's, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa. I mean, every culture has their own. I think they did some sort of coordinated effort to make sure that all the holidays coordinated, but we're dealing with a lot of shoulds and a lot of expectations, and a lot of people dealing with conflicts and challenges and emotions. And yet we're all supposed to be so happy and joyful. What do you recommend that people do to navigate this and remain centered and aligned through these challenging times?
Well, first, I think the only real expectation is the one you put on yourself. And communication, right? If you're not communicating and you're assuming, so expectations on yourself, assuming, and lack of communication is a recipe for disaster, especially during the holidays, right? If I assume that my sister and brother-in-law need a gift from my family, then I'm going to put that pressure on myself. I'm going to go out and buy a gift that they'll probably not even like anyways, because I'm not in that loving, giving realm for that specific thing, right? And I'll tell you exactly what I mean by that. Whereas if I call her and I say, hey, what do you guys want as a joint couple because I'm trying to give to everybody. What do you guys want? She can say, oh, well, we're really been wanting this. And I go out and buy it. And now I can give because it's something she actually wants. Or she can say, hey, listen, we're not really doing gifts this year. And I'm like, sweet, we're off the hook. Or like the third thing I was talking about is being in a spot to know that as my husband has grandchildren, or we have children, right? We know that we're expected to give our children something, and that's okay. We've set the bar really high in the previous years, so we always try to maintain some type of level of giving. So what I do is I try to find something as personal as possible for as little as possible. I'll give you my perfect example this year is all of the grandchildren that are age 10 and under. There's a company out there where you can buy books and have it personalized for them. So each book has their name in it and it's about them, and it's this really fun story, and it did not break the bank. So all of that to really answer your question is communicate. By calling my sister and brother-in-law, and she said, no, we're good. Great. Now I don't have that unexpected, I don't have that yuck in me. The ick is what I call it. You got to get rid of the ick.
Okay, but what if you communicate and you don't get a response that works for you? So let me give you an example. When many, many years ago, I was in a financial hardship point. And so I gave a gift of service to a family member. And it was a very large gift of service. Like it took me a month of every weekend to provide this gift of service. And that is what I was comfortable giving. But the expectation was, what do you mean? There's not going to be anything under the tree? And so, because that expectation, it put me in a position where I felt I had to do something that went against what was best for me in order to please and stay with traditions. And I know that there are a lot of families in transition and hardships, and all of these things are happening. So, what happens when that communication doesn't go the way you need it to go? How do you handle those?
So again, it comes back with that communication. Maybe instead of saying, what would you like? Say, hey, I'm working on this kind of budget this year. What's important to you that can fit in this budget? Right? I do know that other people's expectations of you can definitely be very challenging. And to that, you can only do your best. And if it doesn't meet somebody's expectations of maybe that material gift or that item, that's okay. Disappointment's a part of life, right? It really is. And is the world going to end because that person had a disappointment in this life? Absolutely not. Hey, listen, I can make it up for your birthday or, whatever the case, but kind of shame on them for being disappointed for not getting something they wanted to a certain degree, right?
Yeah. And that comes back to that whole lunch conversation that we were having. But you brought up a point that I was really hoping you would get to. And so we are here where I wanted, which was we are under this belief that things are supposed to be easy, that they're not supposed to be hard or challenging, or that people aren't supposed to we're supposed to meet each other's expectations. And but yet part of the crap we've been taught is we don't talk about the difficult things, we don't deal with the problems, we don't face them, we suppress. And so we are in this transitional time where we're learning how to ask and need for what we want and what is best for us in our own mental health. But yet there are still these old beliefs that it's not supposed to be hard and we're supposed to just suppress. This is where people get into anxiety and depression, and we have people really struggling. Can you talk about how that affects people and what's the best way to handle situations like that?
Um, yes. Yes and no. Um, Number one, I'll start with I have a family background of mental health issues, anxiety, depression, bipolar, those things. And there is a certain degree and level of that to be genetic and passed down. Based off of the science and what I've read, is sometimes it'll skip a generation and go to the next one. So I've always been really cognizant of, man, how is this going to affect my son or my daughter in the future? If it skips me, or what if I get it? And I did. Surprise. Hi. Uh, we all experience hardship, but it's how you experience the hardship.
Yeah.
So, especially men. I'm not saying women don't, but a lot of times men suppress and they suppress and they suppress and they suppress and they suppress, or even women or children who
Yeah.
don't know how to articulate what they're saying or how they're feeling, and they're going to suppress and they're suppress. What happens when you've done all that suppression? Two things: shut down or explode, right?
Mhm.
And so who's gonna get the end result of that? And that's where my passion comes in. That's where I'm like, y'all have to find a place to get this out, you know? Um, but how do you manage that? Every single person is different. There is no right, wrong, do this or do that. Literally, it varies person to person. While I can sit down and meditate and get myself through something, my sister doesn't work that way. Some people, like to be busy and, um, forget about it. Do something, go to a movie, do something that makes them feel good and get their mind off of things. Not me. I've got to process that stuff. Like I need to understand, why do I feel this way and how do I fix it and what am I going to do after this? And I want to know, I want to understand all the intricacies. Some people just want to shut it all out. And so that's why there is no definitive how do you cope, right? Other than maybe therapy or many other ways, just not self-medication.
Well, we're also in the season where there's a lot of self-medicating that's happening. A lot of times we are just soldiering through the best we can. And my heart goes out to those people. December 21st is the longest day of the year, and there's a lot of sadness that comes up in a time that's also so joyful and filled with hope and expectations. But everything seems to be this dichotomy of polarity. And as somebody who knows mental health, what is the best strategy or tools that we can bring into that? And I know we only have a quick minute, so just give me your first number one best.
I would say therapy, truly, meditation, and silence.
Ooh,
Silence is powerful
oh, I love that.
because whenever you stop and smell the roses, and it like opens a door for being able to hear and think and feel how you need to hear, think, and feel.
Oh, I love that. That works so along with the physiological, biological, central nervous system of our whole stress response. That is fantastic. We are at a time where we're about to take another commercial break, so don't forget to subscribe and like. And when we come back, we have so much more that we are going to wrap up this amazing conversation and get us all ready to handle the upcoming season.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. Rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies. Find settings that allow them to be the most productive and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back. So we've been talking about how to navigate mental health challenges in our lives, our daily, the holidays. Amber, you have come into this world through an amazing story. Could you please share with everyone how you ended up here and what you do to serve people through mental health?
Sure. Thank you. First and foremost, my background is in the insurance business here in the U.S. And our medical system is not the greatest. Lots of choices, but it can also be extremely challenging, right? So I had an attorney out of the San Antonio area. He had called me and he said, "Hey, my daughter had a pretty serious suicide attempt. She almost succeeded. And he and his wife had to move out of state. So it is imperative that you get her a health insurance plan that will cover her therapy." And I take my job extremely serious. And I said, "Okay, I got it." And so after a month of searching and, therapists don't want to take insurance because of how they pay or don't pay and just all of the convoluted junk that comes with it, I came down to it and I put everything I had and I said, "Listen, you're just going to have to pay out of pocket for therapy because her therapist doesn't want to take any insurance except for one plan." And after I had to break that news to him, I told him, I talked to my husband that day and I slammed my hand on the desk and I said, "Listen, I'm ready to go to Washington, D.C. and advocate or Austin and advocate, but this is broken and I cannot take it anymore." And he said, "Well, let's do our own plan. Let's figure it out ourselves." I said, "Okay." So I went on this massive mission and had this grandiose idea of becoming the Blue Cross Blue Shield of mental health. Meaning I want it to be a big kahuna. I want it have my own network and I want it to cover inpatient and outpatient hospitalization and I want it to cover medication. I want all the things. But that is light years away. It's such an undertaking to really start from scratch for something that's never existed before. And so we did develop an online mental health program where we can give 24/7 access to a licensed clinician all across the country.
Wow. What initiative, what taking a problem and seeing that you have or have the ability to create a solution and run with it. That is so amazing. Could you explain the program that you and your husband have created? I just love it.
Yes, thank you. So what happens is once enrolled, there's a little bit of a gap, but it's like whenever you go to the doctors, right? They've got to triage you, so you're going to call in, and you get 24/7 access to therapy. There's over 2,000 licensed clinicians across the country, and it's for that in the moment problem. I know whenever I have most of my problems, it's not Monday through Friday from 8 to 5, where I can just pop into somebody's office and be like, "Hey, here I am. I'm in trouble and I need your help." That's definitely not how it is. So this is something that men can use on their lunch break in their work truck,
Mm.
in the evenings after the kids go to bed. You can do it with children who you're like at your wits' end. And most importantly, when you realize exactly what you said earlier, when you're soldiering through and you just need someone to listen to you, someone to just hear you out. And then they can usually give you really good advice on how to manage that, because they are the licensed therapists. They've gone to school for this. They know how our brains work. They know, and they hear it all day, every day. They know what works. And so that's one of the where I've become so passionate, is just for people to have that outlet. I can call my grandma and she's my confidant. She's the most incredible person on the planet. But she's biased, right? She's not going to tell me, "Amber, you're an idiot," because she loves me, right? Sometimes I need to hear, "Amber, you're an idiot," which I have plenty of people that will tell me that too. But on a very serious note, it's great to have an unbiased opinion. It's great to have that person with an education background give solid advice, and so that's how we're doing it.
Absolutely. So you are accepting more therapists within your program, as well as people looking for therapy. Is that correct?
So we're not in charge of acquiring therapists. We do have an existing network in place. We do have a process that if we have a therapist that wants to join our platform, then we have a resource to get them involved. Our primary side is to just get access to therapy to the masses.
Beautiful. And so we're going to be including in the show notes exactly where and how they can reach you. But would you tell everybody the best way that they can reach you and what your website is?
Sure. So the name of our company is Foundation Mental Wellness. You can find us at www.foundationmentalwellness.com. We do have an affiliate program. So if you would like to sign up to be an affiliate, you have the ability to do so on our website, where you can get compensated just for helping people get access to therapy too. But the best resource is our website. Number two, we do have a non-mental health line. That phone number is 830-822-5171. That does go to our office admin people. And then, of course, whenever you do sign up, you get your own 1-800 number to call and reach that therapist in the moment.
Beautiful. So before we go any further, I want to stress to anyone who is watching this and you feel that you are in immediate danger, to do not hesitate to call 911 and reach out for help. This is a moment in time, and there are people who care. And as somebody who has been there are resources, there are solutions, and you don't need to go this alone. But if it's non-urgent, then services like what Amber has, I highly encourage you to check it out. Amber, thank you so very much for joining this important conversation. Again, like I said, I believe in the universal timing and the fact that you are my guest. That was pre-scheduled, 6 months ago?
Yes.
To be here today, exactly the time after I took my own personal hiatus. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Kathy. I love what you're doing, and you have an amazing platform. So thank you.
My pleasure. For those of you who are struggling, I want you to know that the person that you saw 3 weeks ago is the same person you see here today, who feels on top of the world because I found my voice again, because I gave myself grace, because I gave myself permission to not always be perfect, to not always have the answers, and to just listen to my own body. It's one of the things that my family says, that I say all the time, and they use it against me all the time back, which is listen to your body. Your body knows, your emotions know when it doesn't feel right. You have the ability to set your boundaries, to make your choices, and to put yourself first on the list. 2024 is wrapping up and we are in massive change. I am here for you as well. I'm here to help you unlearn your crap. I encourage you to reach out. I have resources. I am accepting new clients, and I am here to help you get ready to make 2025 the best year ever. The world is calling for each and every one of us to step up into our genius and bring our gifts to the world, especially you. So don't waste another moment. Allow yourself to shine and take care of the opposite side of where your zone of genius is, because it's only going to make you even better. Thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you next week. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and I will be back in one more week. Have a great day.
This has been Unlearn the Crap TV with your host, Kathy Baldwin. Tune in each week as Kathy challenges you to rethink everything you know about personal empowerment and societal structures. Thursdays, 4 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.